everyone. So today I'm going to go over how to use Git and GitHub. So we're going to start off at the very beginning with creating a repository and then cloning that repository to our computer. Then I'm going to go over how to stage, commit, and push changes to our new Git repository. Then we're going to go over how to create a new branch and how to merge changes from our branch into the master. So let's get started. I'm going to first go to GitHub's website, github.com, and log in with my GitHub account. So now I'm going to create a new repository. So from the GitHub webpage, I'm going to go up to the top navigation bar to the right-hand side where there's this little plus icon. I'm going to click that icon and I'm going to get a drop-down menu. I'm going to select New Repository from that drop-down menu. So now I get to create a new repository page. I'm going to type in a name for my repository. I can give it a description if I want to, and then I'm going to initialize this repository with a README and click Create Repository. So now I get a new repository page. So this is a blank, empty repository. I just created it, and now I want to go ahead and clone or copy, if you will, that repository onto my computer. So over here on the right-hand side of the screen, there's this green Clone or Download button. Click on that, and you're going to get this little window that pops up. It'll probably say Clone with HTTPS. But we want to use SSH instead. So on the right-hand top side of this window, we'll see a button that says Use SSH. I'm going to click on Use SSH. I'm going to see an input field that says git@github.com and then has your username and the repo name. To the right of this input field, there's a little clipboard. I'm going to click this clipboard and it's going to copy what is in that input field into my clipboard. So now I'm ready to clone this repository onto the computer. The repository has been made, it exists in the cloud, and now I have a link to point to that repository that I just copied by clicking on this clipboard. So I'm going to go into my terminal. I'm going to change directories into my Git repositories folder. So on my computer in the home directory, I have a Git folder that's full of repositories. So I'm going to go ahead and type in Git, G-I-T, space, clone, space, and then I'm going to paste in that link that I copied from the GitHub website by pressing on that little clipboard icon. So let's take a really quick look at the anatomy of this command. Git is the application that we're going to run. It's this first word here. The second word is the action we want to run. So we want Git to run the clone command. And then the third piece of information here is going to be a parameter or an argument that we're giving clone. Hey Git, I want you to clone this repo, and I'm pointing to where the repo is located. So I'm going to hit enter. If you're doing this for the first time, you might get this note. You're just going to type in yes and hit enter. And now that file has been cloned to our computer. I'm going to really quickly open up my Git folder, and I can see here that I have a folder called Coding Demo. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Coding Demo in VS Code. I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. So I just have some blank index.html scaffolding here. I'm going to save that file, and now let's go ahead and stage, commit, and push this change to our GitHub repo in the cloud. So I'm going to come back into my terminal. I'm going to CD into that coding demo folder that was made when I cloned the repository. So when we clone a repository, it's going to create a new folder with the name of the repository. I'm going to hit enter to change into that. So now I'm inside of my coding demo repository. I can type in ls and hit enter just to make sure that I know what files are there, to make sure I'm in the right folder. All right, so now I'm ready to stage these changes to the Git repository. So I'm going to type in git space add space dash capital A. This is telling the Git application to add any changes to the staging area, and the dash A means I want to add all the files in this repository. So I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to get a new line telling me that the command was executed successfully. Now I want to commit these changes. So I've readied them up. Git knows about these files because I used git add. Now I want to commit these changes. So I'm going to use git space commit space dash lowercase m space opening quotes, and then I'm going to type in what's called a commit message. So this is a descriptive message of what changes are being committed. So what changes have I made since the last time I did a commit? So here I added an index.html file and then a closing quote. So git commit dash m and then in quotes your commit message. Then I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm ready to push these changes to the repository. So up until this point, adding and committing nothing is different on our repository in GitHub's website. If I refresh the page, I still don't see that index.html file. So I need to do git space push space origin space master. So this is telling Git to push any committed changes to wherever the repository originated from, and specifically to the master branch. The master branch is our default branch. It's the master source for our project. So I'm gonna hit enter, and all of my changes should be pushed up to the master branch. So let's double check this. I'm gonna go into my web browser and refresh the page. I can now see the index.html file that I created, and here is my commit message, added an index.html file. So now let's come back in here. It's not always a good idea to create and push everything to your master branch by default. As you're working, especially on a team, you're likely not going to even have access to do that. So to get around this, we're going to create a new branch in our repository and push any changes to that branch, which is separate from our master branch. It's kind of like we have two different tracks running at the same time, two different versions of our code. Then we can create a pull request, which can then be reviewed by a colleague before merging our changes into the master branch, where we would take anything in one of our branches, have somebody approve it, and then it's going to be pushed into all the code that's in the master. So let's do a demo. First, I'm going to do git space checkout space -b space and then a new name for my branch. So say in this branch, I am adding a header to my index.html file. So I'm going to call this branch header. I'm going to hit enter. And then I get this little note, switched to a new branch, header. So what I just did was I told Git that I wanted to check out a branch. The -b means that I am creating a new branch that doesn't already exist. And then I gave that branch any name that I wanted. So now let's come back into VS Code, and I'm going to go ahead and add my header. So I'm going to create an h1 tag, type some content in, and hit save. So now I'm going to come back into my terminal, and I'm ready to add, commit, and push these changes. So I'm going to once again do git add -a, git commit -m, and then type in a commit message between two quotes. And then I'm going to do git space push space origin space, and then the name of the branch that I just created, which in this case is header. So this is telling Git that I want to push any pending commits to wherever this repo originated from, and specifically to the header branch. I'm going to hit enter, and looks like it worked. So let's come back into our browser. I'm going to do a refresh, and I can see here that this index.html file still says added an index.html file. It doesn't mention that new header. That's because I'm on the master branch. If I click on this branch button, a drop-down menu appears, and I can click on header, the new header branch that I created. If I click on header, I can now see this index.html file has a different commit message, adds a header to index.html. Let's open it up just to double check. So there is my header. So now I want to do what's called creating a pull request. So this is a request to take the code that's in a specific branch and merge it into the code in the master branch. So you'll see that I have this little yellow header that says the name of the branch, and then has this green button that says compare and pull request. I'm going to click on compare and pull request. So now I come to the open a pull request page. I can add in a comment here if I want. And then I can click this green create pull request button. Since this repo is all mine, I can just merge this pull request right in. I don't have any merge conflicts here, so I can go ahead and just do that. If you're working on a team, somebody else is most likely going to have to approve your pull request before it can be merged into the master branch. But I'm going to go ahead and merge this pull request, click confirm merge, and now I see this little purple icon that says pull request successfully merged and closed. So now I can go ahead and delete that branch if I want, just to kind of clean things up. So now I'm going to come back into my terminal, and I'm going to check out the master branch. So I'm going to do get checkout master. Now notice I didn't need the -b here, because I'm not creating a new branch. I'm switching to a branch that already exists. So I'm going to hit enter, and now I'm in the master branch. But if I come into VS Code, I can see that my h1 tag went away. That header that I worked on isn't there any longer. So what I need to do now is I need to pull any changes that have happened to that particular branch. So I'm going to type in git pull, hit enter. I get some information here, and it says one file changed, one insertion, one deletion. So let's come back into my HTML file in VS Code, and I can see there's that h1 tag. So the pull command went to that GitHub repo in the cloud, looked for any changes that had been made. A change had been made because I had made a pull request and merged files from one branch into another, and then pulled those files back down onto my computer.